Aunque mis ojos no te puedan ver, te puedo sentir, sé que estás aquí. Aunque mis manos no pueden tocar tu rostro, Señor, sé que estás aquí.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Good morning. Buenos dias. Welcome all to North Goshen. Thank you for joining us this morning in this crazy weather, I can say, from you warm and cozy home. So thank you for joining us. This is week 3 of Sign of Life. Bring us to one of the most mysterious story in John's Gospel. Nicodemus, a religious insider, come to Jesus at night with questions. Jesus told him he must be born from above. Nicodemus is confused. Honestly, we all a little confused. But here is one matter. Jesus meet Nicodemus in darkness. He doesn't turn him away for not understanding. He engages him with questions. So if you're here with question today, question about faith, about transformations, about what it means to follow Jesus, you are welcome here. God's Spirit moves in a way that we cannot predict or control. Is that okay? Let's worship the God who meets us in our seeking. Now, if anybody have any announcement, I don't know if we're going to do this morning. If anybody have any announcement, raise your hand and unmute.
Becky, I didn't see that Alan is connected, but I think he was supposed to announce they changed the date for the live-in, right?
So the live-in is this coming weekend, correct?
I believe so, that there was a text that went out, although I don't know that I didn't see anybody respond to it, but that was this weekend was the alternative date that Alan had offered. So
Yeah. So I think
assume
it'll
it's
be
happening.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But if parents have any questions, they could message Alan.
Yep, for sure.
Does that sound good, Belen?
Okay, if anybody else have any announcements?
Yes, I. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, continue bringing hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, and tissues to support the Chamberlain Elementary School. So bring your donation and put it under mailbox place. There is a big box under mailbox.
Anyone else? If not, let's call on the God who meets us in our darkness, who transforms us by the spirit of movement. This is our call to worship.
So instead of having everybody unmute and try to mute again and all of the ensuing chaos that sometimes happens, Robert's going to read the leader and I'll join him for the all, but you all can join also in your homes, just we won't unmute for that.
En la oscuridad te buscamos. In the darkness we seek you.
Dios de misterio, encuéntranos aquí. God of mystery, meet us here.
Como Nicodemus, venimos con preguntas. Like Nicodemus, we come with questions.
Enséñanos tus caminos.
Teach us your ways. El Espíritu se mueve donde quiere. The Spirit moves where it will.
Sopla a través de nosotros con tu viento transformador. Blow through us with your transforming winds.
Amen.
So Christina and I will be reading the scripture. Christina is at a. Oh, there you are. Hi. Okay. Okay, your turn, Christina.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. John 3, 1 to 8, Common English Bible. There was a Pharisee named Nicodemus, a Jewish leader. He came to Jesus at night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could do these miraculous signs that you do unless God is with him. Jesus answered, I assure you, unless someone is born anew, it is not possible to see God's kingdom. Nicodemus asked, How is it possible for an adult to be born? It's impossible to enter the mother's womb for a second time and be born, isn't it? Jesus answered, I assure you, unless someone is born of water and the Spirit, it is not possible to enter God's kingdom. Whatever is born of the flesh is flesh, and whatever is born of the Spirit is spirit. Don't be surprised that I said to you, You must be born anew. God's Spirit blows wherever it wishes. You hear its sound, but you don't know where it comes from or where it's going. It's the same with everyone who is born of the Spirit.
Juan 3, versículos 1 a 8. Había entre los fariseos un dirigente de los judíos llamado Nicodemo. Este fue de noche a visitar a Jesús. Rabbi, le dijo, sabemos que eres un maestro que ha venido de parte de Dios, porque nadie podría hacer las señales que tú haces si Dios no estuviera con él. Te aseguro que quien no nazca de nuevo no puede ver el reino de Dios, dijo Jesús. ¿Cómo puede uno nacer de nuevo siendo ya viejo? Preguntó Nicodemo. ¿Acaso puede entrar por segunda vez en el vientre de su madre y volver a nacer? Te aseguro que quien no nazca del agua del Espíritu no puede entrar en el reino de Dios, respondió Jesús. Lo que nace del cuerpo es cuerpo, lo que nace del Espíritu es espíritu. No te sorprendas de que haya dicho, tiene que nacer de nuevo. El viento sopla por donde quiera y oyes su sonido, aunque ignoras de dónde viene y a dónde va. Lo mismo pasa con todo el que nace del Espíritu.
So I changed things up a little bit this morning. Instead of having text along with the images, because as we all experienced during the COVID months and years, sometimes we can get a little bit of screen fatigue. So I didn't want you to have to be reading text on the screen the whole time that I am talking. So what you'll see are just images that I've chosen to go along and help hopefully deepen what you're hearing today. So last week, the wind chimes outside our kitchen window woke me up at about 3 a.m. And this wasn't a gentle stirring. This was a full-on argument with the dark. And by morning, half of our trash cans and recycle bins had migrated 2 houses down. And the flags, if you noticed, in Goshen on Main Street were snapping like they had something urgent to say, and power lines were humming in the winter storm. This is Goshen in January. This is wind that doesn't ask permission. In the morning, I found our neighbor's recycle bin 3 yards over, nested inside someone's political sign that had finally given up and blown free. The wind doesn't care about property lines or who voted for whom. It just blows. You don't argue with the wind. You close the windows or you open them wider, but you don't lecture it about timing or volume. You learn to live with it. Nicodemus wanted a blueprint, and Jesus gave him weather. In Greek, the word is pneuma, which means wind and breath and spirit, all the same. In Hebrew, the word is ruach. That is the breath God breathed into Adam's nostrils in Genesis 2. The valley wind that rattled dry bones back to life in Ezekiel 37. When Jesus tells Nicodemus, the wind blows where it wishes, you hear its sound, but you don't know where it comes from or where it goes, he's not being mystical for the fun of it. He is using the Bible's oldest metaphor for God's life moving through the world. And here's what I think Jesus is saying to Nicodemus. Transformation is not a curriculum we complete. It is a climate we learn to inhabit. Nicodemus is all of us on our best behaved days. He is an insider, a Pharisee. He's a teacher, a member of the ruling council. He's educated. He has done the work. He comes to Jesus at night because he has questions, sure, but also because he wants clarity before he commits to change. He wants the syllabus with learning outcomes and a grading rubric. He asks how questions, and Jesus answers with who and where. How can someone be born after growing old? Nicodemus asks. It's a reasonable question if you're trying to diagram the mechanics. But Jesus says the wind blows where it wishes, which is not an answer to the question Nicodemus asked. But it is the answer to the question Nicodemus actually has, which is, can I control this? Nicodemus wanted a symbol with learning outcomes, and Jesus gave him a kite. The passage turns on the word anothen, born from above or born again, depending on how you hear it. Both meanings live in the word at the same time. Jesus isn't talking about repetition, doing the whole birth thing over from scratch. He's talking about origin, about where life comes from, not from your effort or your pedigree or your perfectly executed plan, but from above, from God. And this echoes all through the prophets. Ezekiel 36, God promises to sprinkle clean water on the people, to give them a new heart, to put a new spirit inside them. And it's not because they asked nicely or studied hard, but because God does this kind of thing. It's God's pattern, remaking people, writing on their hearts, breathing life where there wasn't any. Jesus isn't inventing a new religion. He is describing what God has been doing all along. Most of us were taught that transformation works like this: try harder, believe cleaner, get it right, work the program, achieve the outcome, and show your progress. Jesus says you don't manage birth, you don't schedule wind, you don't control the spirit. And this is what terrifies people like Nicodemus and people like us. Because if transformation isn't something we achieve through right belief and proper practice, then we can't guarantee outcomes. We can't protect ourselves through performance. The ground under religious achievement culture, that whole system that says if you pray enough and study enough and serve enough, you will be safe, it all collapses. And we're left standing in the wind with nothing to hold on to but God. This is terrible news if you're Nicodemus, or me, or anyone who's built a life on knowing the answers and executing the steps. Because what Jesus is describing isn't a project. It's not something you add to your calendar between the dentist appointment and the budget meeting. It's more like weather, something you live inside, something that moves you, whether you planned for it or not. I keep thinking about wind chimes. They don't create music, really. They don't compose or conduct or perform. They reveal a movement that's already present. The wind blows and the chimes say, "Oh, there you are." Each chime hears the same wind differently, different tones, different rhythms, and the music isn't in the uniformity. It is in the fact that they are all responding to the same living thing moving through them. This is what it looks like when English and Spanish sit side by side in the same service, the same prayer, the same song, not one language translating the other like a copy machine, but two distinct voices hearing the same spirit and sounding different notes. Harmony, not uniformity. The wind blows through both, and what comes out isn't chaos. It's richer than either language alone. Our Anabaptist tradition loves covenants. We love practices and commitments and plans, and those are good gifts. But when we mistake the chime for the wind, we end up worshiping our own methods. We start thinking that if we can just get the practices right, we can manufacture the Spirit's movement. We can't. The chimes don't summon the wind. They just make it visible, or audible anyway, when it shows up. Todd told me once about bending wood in his shop. You can't force it. You have to steam it first, let heat and moisture move all the way through the grain until the wood becomes something it wasn't before. Supple and willing, and only then can you shape it. You can study the physics of steam bending forever, read all the manuals, watch all the videos, but you only learn it by doing it, by putting your hands on the wood and feeling when it's ready to move. Or learning Spanish. I've been trying for years. I can study verb conjugations until my eyes crossed, and I still freeze when someone asks me a question. You don't become bilingual by mastering grammar. You become bilingual by living in the wind of relationship, by listening and failing and trying again, by letting the language move through you until it starts to feel like home. That's what Jesus is talking about. You don't study your way into the kingdom. You live your way in, and the Spirit is what carries you. But here's the thing about wind, though. It exposes weak things. Loose shingles, unanchored fences, trees that looked fine all summer but were actually rotting from the inside. And when the storm comes, you find out what was actually holding. The Spirit does this too. Later in John 3, Jesus talks about light and darkness, how some people love darkness because their deeds are evil, how Those who do what's true come to the light. And it sounds like judgment. But notice Nicodemus came at night. He came in the dark, confused and uncertain, asking questions he couldn't ask in the daylight. And Jesus didn't send him away. He didn't say, "Come back when you've figured it out." He engaged. He kept talking. He gave Nicodemus the gift of mystery and told him to live into it. The Spirit meets us inside our uncertainty, not after we've resolved it, inside it. The wind is blowing hard right now, in some ways none of us scheduled. Fear for immigrant neighbors who don't know if it's safe to go to the grocery store. Weariness after years of pandemic and political chaos and church conflict and climate disaster and all the small griefs we didn't put on the calendar but showed up anyway. The Spirit doesn't ask permission to rearrange our furniture. It doesn't send an email first to see if it's a good time. Right now, the wind is blowing through detention centers and across borders, and empire is calling it enforcement. Children are being separated from parents again, and empire is calling it policy. Bystanders are being murdered in their neighborhoods by federal agents, and empire is calling it security. But the Spirit is blowing too. It's blowing through sanctuary networks and mutual aid circles. It's blowing through the people who show up at ICE check-ins as witnesses, who know their presence might not stop violence, but refuse to let it happen unwatched. It's blowing through the teenager who translates for her grandmother at the doctor's office, and the church that votes to become a sanctuary despite the risk. You can tell the difference between the two winds by asking one question. Does this wind make people more human or less? Does it gather or does it scatter? Does it breathe life or does it choke it? But here's what matters. The wind of God is not the wind of empire. Empire uses storms to scatter people, to break families apart, to terrorize communities, to call cruelty order and violence security. Empire's wind dehumanizes. It steals children. It treats people like debris. God's wind gathers. It blows through Ezekiel's valley and breathes life into bones that were too dead to hope. It fills the upper room at Pentecost and makes a crowd of strangers understand each other. It moves over the waters at creation and brings forth life where there was only chaos. You can tell the difference between the two winds by what they leave behind. Empire leaves wreckage. God leaves communion. And here's what matters for those of us trying to follow Jesus. We don't get to sit out the storm. The question isn't whether we'll be moved by wind. We will be. The question is, which wind will we let ourselves be moved by? Empire's wind that scatters and dehumanizes, or God's wind that gathers and makes whole. So what do we do? If transformation isn't a syllabus, if we can't control the Spirit's movement, if the wind blows where it wishes, what is our part? Not control, but posture. First, listen before you label. Step onto the porch and feel the wind before you decide what it means or where it's going. Pay attention. Notice what's shifting. This is harder than it sounds because most of us are so used to instant analysis that we skip the part where we actually experience what's happening. Second, small obedience. You can't control the wind, but you can open a window. You can untie the kite. You can let go of the thing you're gripping so hard your knuckles are white and see what happens when you unclench. Third, community as weather station. We discern together. One person alone in a windstorm can't tell if the gusts are local or part of a larger pattern. But together, listening to each other's windows rattling, comparing notes on what's flying past, we start to see the Spirit's movement more clearly. This is why we need each other, not just for comfort, though that too, but for discernment. North Goshen is learning this. We're a house with many windows, and yes, sometimes it's drafty. We're still figuring out which doors to prop open and which to latch. When we started worshiping bilingually, some people said it would never work. It's too complicated. It's too chaotic. Pick one language and stick with it. But we didn't want uniformity. We wanted to hear what happens when the same Spirit blows through English and Spanish at the same time. And we're learning that when you open enough windows, the cross breeze isn't confusion. It's movement. And movement is what the Spirit does. North Goshen is a house with many windows. Sometimes it's drafty. Sometimes we're still learning which doors to prop open. And we don't always get it right. But we're learning to live in the wind together. English and Spanish, questions and certainty, insiders and outsiders, all hearing the same pneuma and sounding different notes. We're learning that transformation isn't something we engineer, it's something we notice, something we participate in, something that happens to us and through us when we stop trying to manage the Spirit and start listening for its sound. Nicodemus doesn't understand. Not that night, anyway. Jesus keeps talking, and Nicodemus keeps asking, how can this be? Like maybe if he asks it enough times, Jesus will break down and give him the 5-step plan. But he doesn't. And later, chapters later, Nicodemus shows up again in John 7. He defends Jesus publicly, not eloquently, not with a rousing speech, just a procedural question in a council meeting. Our law doesn't judge someone without first hearing from that person, does it? It's a small thing, a lawyer's question, but it's public, it's risky. It's the sound of someone who is learning to live in the wind. And then in John 19, after the crucifixion, Nicodemus brings 75 pounds of myrrh and aloes to help bury Jesus. That is not a small gesture. That's expensive. That's public. That is the act of someone who finally stopped asking how and started asking, where do you need me? Birth takes time. Transformation isn't instant. The wind doesn't move us all at once. It moves us over months and years in ways we don't always recognize until we look back and realize we're standing somewhere we never planned to be. Nicodemus came at night with questions. He left with more questions. But somewhere between John 3 and John 19, the questions changed. That's how you know the Spirit has been working. Next week, there will be more Goshen gusts, more trash cans in the alleys, more wind chimes arguing with the dark, more questions than answers. May you be less afraid of what you cannot control. May the wind find the tight places in you, the spots where you've been holding your breath, the rooms you've kept locked, the certainties you have clutched like a security blanket, and teach them how to breathe. The Spirit blows where it wishes. You hear its sound. Listen. Amen.
Breathe on me, breath of God, fill me with life anew, that I may love what thou dost love, and do what thou wouldst do. Breathe on me, breath of God, until my heart is pure, until with thee I will one will to do and to endure. Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine, until this earthly part of me
I do want to invite all of you who want to stick around after this virtual service and visit if you didn't get a chance to before the service. We'll let the Zoom stay open for as long as there are people who wish to talk. But we took out several songs, so we're not going to do a sending song. And Todd, if you would just go ahead and flip to our last slide. There we go. So this is our traditional go in peace, ve en paz slide to let you know that this is the end of our service, but it does not have to be the end of our time together. So go in peace to each of you. Be careful shoveling out there. I don't know how heavy the snow is because I haven't stepped outside yet today, but I hope this isn't heart attack snow because we just need an easier winter, maybe the rest of the month, the rest of winter. I'll take that. We're what? A week from Groundhog Day? So please visit if you'd like. Unmute yourselves and come together.